Shalom, Kol Halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakaha, Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. The would-be judges, the 144,000 that the Lord sets up, the usher in the kingdom of heaven, that will be the judges over the whole earth, the new government. There will be no Chinese, American, Scottish, Japanese, Swedish, Australian. There will be no governments. It will finally be on earth as it is in heaven. And 12,000 men from the 12 tribes of Israel, that 144,000, will enforce those laws throughout the world and the universe. All right, under the authority of who the world ignorantly and fraudulently called Jesus Christ. That is the gospel. All right, and to the rest of the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black only thing. The Israelites are scattered among all people, including this chubby face guy right here. All right. I'm not saying that he is, but there are people that look like him that are also Israelites as a result of that scattering. Something that these non-spiritual, carnal people can't seem to understand. But it's not for them to understand. And to the rest of the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And I got four short videos that I want to play. A couple that came from some diligent brothers. One came from my beloved April O'Neil, the on the spot Ninja Turtle journalist there. All right, but it's becoming plain. The world is beginning to see Esau's being exposed, man. So let's grab a couple scriptures first. One that just constantly comes out because it's just too fitting to everything that's happening as the Lord begins to reveal more and more. This is Isaiah 29:15. Woe to them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahweh, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us and who knoweth us? All right, and that's what Esau Edom tries to do. They try to hide their wickedness. They try to disguise it as something else. Or they'll give you a reason for something, and something else is happening. Like they were having these peace talks, and the whole time they were planning an attack. That was under deceit. This is why their word is doo-doo. All right, they mean nothing to what the word of an American politician at this point is boo-boo. It means absolutely shit to the people of the world, and people are seeing it because here you are supposedly brokering peace, but planning an attack at the same time. And it turns out that, look, it's like one gentleman said, and Lord's will, I use that video tomorrow. But and I have to agree with him. If Iran had nuclear weapons, Israel and America wouldn't fuck with them. We don't attack nations that have, even if they just had one. We don't attack people like that. America and Israel, especially Israel, they like to attack people unarmed. You know how cops in America are constantly shooting down unarmed people, mainly the dark brown ones. All right, that's the same, modus operatus of Esau Edom in general. All right, this is Obadiah 1:6, and it reads, "How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up?" So through the Spirit, I'm gonna play. I think the longest video is about is about 4 minutes long. I'm going to play on probably about average of 3 to 4 minutes of each one of these videos, and add some commentary or some scripture as we go through the Spirit. So first up is this guy. So here we go.
Right, so Benjamin Netanyahu always wanted to be remembered as the man who stood up to Iran. He just didn't expect Iran to stand up, punch back, and start kicking down the walls of his legacy one missile at a time. What began as a theatrical airstrike on Iran's aging nuclear sites has snowballed into a cyber-fueled, drone-laced, region-rattling war. And the only thing more shredded than Israeli air defences, which Iran have undermined yet again with little more than a USB stick, is the illusion, or delusion perhaps would be better, control. Then came Donald Trump, parachuting in overnight with bunker-buster bravado on Iran's nuclear sites, hoping to play the saviour. Instead, lighting the fuse on an even bigger inferno. This isn't the war Netanyahu planned. What comes next is entirely on him and Trump. But how far matters now spiral beyond Israel and Iran, we can only right now dread to think. But it will be a reckoning they never saw coming, and have very much now asked for. Right, so in what may well go down as one of the most self-destructive acts of idiocy in modern history, Israel's long-anticipated confrontation with Iran has erupted into a full-scale war. Or perhaps more accurately, Benjamin Netanyahu's personal war of legacy has exploded in his face. Triggered by an unprovoked strike on Iran's nuclear infrastructure, as we well know by now, strikes coordinated with, and later, as we've seen overnight, joined by the United States, this conflict has escalated into a sustained Iranian counter-offensive marked by precision and resolve. Contrary to Western and Israeli narratives of a fractured, faltering Islamic Republic, the past week has revealed a digitally and military empowered Iran, guided not by panic, but by policy, and very much...
Digitally, he said digital, all right, and resources. Pay close attention, because it's not nuclear stuff that they want from Iran. It's something else. We're going to get to that.
United against the aggression that has been meted out against them. Their actions demonstrate that this conflict is no longer merely about nuclear capabilities. It's about sovereignty, self-defense, and making Israel pay the highest possible price for its aggression, all the more so now after the equally, if not more stupid actions of Donald Trump. The initial act of war was not Iranian. Israel launched an unprovoked missile attack against Iranian nuclear sites, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, despite those facilities being monitored by the International Atomic Energy Agency and having no significant weapons-grade material on site, because there isn't any. Iran, it turns out, had already anticipated this escalation, though, and the targeting of these sites, first by Israel, who didn't have the armaments to make a dent in them anyway, far underground as they are, but just in case the US came in with bunker busters, and therefore in the last few days trucks seemed to be leaving said sites, it would appear removed the enrichment materials, leaving the Israeli and subsequent American attacks to destroy little more than concrete and circuitry. There was no radioactive fallout, no loss of strategic capacity, only confirmation of what Tehran has long argued, that this was never about nuclear non-proliferation. It was about provocation and domination, and all the Western rhetoric about Iran not being allowed a nuclear weapon as a whole load of hot air, when the real aim is regime change. It's always been Netanyahu's goal. The American airstrikes that followed, Donald Trump green-lighting direct military involvement, drove the final nail into the coffin of any plausible deniability.
There you go. So America is guilty. Israel is guilty. And there's no way out of this. And as you're going to see, as I'm going to provide you with some information that was new to me, that I was like, wow, this is heavy. But this is Job 18:5, because this whole plan backfired. And it just exposed and shamed even more shameful spewing on that glory. But Job 18:5, it reads, "Yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him. The steps of his strength shall be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down." So, and that's exactly what's happened. Everything is made harder for him, and his own people are. You're looking at mutinies now. You got mutinies in the military now. All right, because people, you don't have to follow unlawful orders. And then you got a president that goes around, that violates the Constitution, goes around the executive branches and just does whatever the hell he wants. If you're gonna bomb a country, you got to get a congressional order. There has to be something that's agreed upon. Just to remind you of that, and something that he did not do. It says, "For he shall cast into a net, for he is cast into a net by his own feet, and he walketh upon a snare. The gin shall take him by the heel, and a robber shall prevail against him. The snare is laid for him in the ground, and a trap for him in the way. Terror shall make him afraid on every side, and shall drive him to his feet. Look at the Israelis now scattering like rats, and leaving the country by the millions now. When they thought they were invincible and untouchable, they found out that their Iron Dome was all a lie. It was a fraud. False sense of security. It says, his strength shall be hunger bitten, and destruction shall be ready at his side. It shall devour the strength of his skin. Even the firstborn of death shall devour his strength. His confidence shall be rooted out of his tabernacle, and shall bring him to the king of terrors, which is Yahweh Shah. The firstborn of death is the Lord, man. All right, people don't understand the Lord is the Grim Reaper. And he's going, just the way he brought death in Egypt, he's going to bring death again in Egypt. All right. And it's going to start in the valley of Jehoshaphat. The least of the flock has drawn them out. So now, the result of them bombing, well, let's see.
And now that Tehran sent a message back. They're screaming for help like a child who lit the fire and got burned by the flame. Oh, now it's a tragedy. Now you remember what a hospital is. You bombed over 200 hospitals in Gaza. You hit a children's hospital in Iran. You blew up ambulances, dialysis centers, maternity wards. And now you want sympathy? Let me say this loud so the world hears. You didn't just bomb buildings. You didn't just kill civilians. You targeted the ones who were trying to save them. You murdered medics, unarmed, brave, rushing to save a life. And you killed them in cold blood. Then you buried them in their vehicles, like criminals hiding a murder weapon. You didn't just kill people, you erased the proof. You buried mercy under the rubble, and now you ask for compassion. Here's the part that burns deeper. The world has been watching a live stream genocide for 2 years, on every screen, in every language, from every angle. And now, after 2 years of watching you bomb children with American missiles, you expect the people to feel something for you. You got some nerve. You want tears. Tell that to the mothers digging their babies out with bare hands. Tell that to cancer patients gasping for oxygen as the hospital walls collapsed around them. You want sympathy. You had 2 years of global silence, and that still wasn't enough for your bloodlust. You've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked. The world was hoodwinked into believing you were victims while you turned cities into cemeteries. You don't get to cry now. Not after you made mourning a crime in Gaza. You don't get to scream now. Not after you silenced every voice that dared to say enough. You bombed hope. You buried mercy. You murdered truth. And now you want the people's pity. We don't mourn for war criminals. We don't cry for colonizers. We cry for the silence, for the crushed, for the medics you left in the dirt. But something's changed. The world sees you now. The veil is off. The lie is dead. And now that Tehran...
So, you know what? This was so intense, so fiery. I'm going to let it play again.
Sent a message back. They're screaming for help like a child who lit the fire and got burned by the flame. Oh, now it's a tragedy. Now you remember what a hospital is.
Right.
You bombed over 200 hospitals in Gaza. You hit a children's hospital in Iran. You blew up ambulances, dialysis centers, maternity wards. And now you want sympathy? Let me say this loud so the world hears. You didn't just bomb buildings. You didn't just kill civilians. You targeted the ones who were trying to save them. You murdered medics, unarmed, brave, rushing to save a life. And you killed them in cold blood. Then you buried them in their vehicles, like criminals hiding a murder weapon. You didn't just kill people, you erased the proof. You buried mercy under the rubble, and now you ask for compassion. Here's the part that burns deeper. The world has been watching a live stream genocide for 2 years, on every screen, in every language, from every angle. And now, after 2 years of watching you bomb children with American missiles, you expect the people to feel something for you. You got some nerve. You want tears. Tell that to the mothers digging their babies out with bare hands. Tell that to cancer patients gasping for oxygen as the hospital walls collapsed around them. You want sympathy. You had 2 years of global silence, and that still wasn't enough for your bloodlust. You've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked. The world was hoodwinked into believing you were victims while you turned cities into cemeteries. You don't get to cry now. Not after you made mourning a crime in Gaza. You don't get to scream now. Not after you silenced every voice that dared to say enough. You bombed hope. You buried mercy. You murdered truth. And now you want the people's pity. We don't mourn for war criminals. We don't cry for colonizers. We cry for the silence, for the crushed, for the medics you left in the dirt. But something's changed. The world sees you now. The veil is off. The lie is dead. And now that terror...
Colossians 3, he said, the veil is off. We don't cry for colonizers. We do not cry for war criminals. Colossians 3 and 25, but he that doeth wrong shall receive for the wrong which he hath done, and there is no respect of persons. Let's go to James. I think it's 2 and 13. For he shall have judgment without mercy that have showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. So, you know, this is, I believe this is Tel Aviv. This was the response. It was way worse. And then they were trying to downplay it and not show it. But millions, like I said, millions of that people were fleeing. And then when people find out what was really going on, that it wasn't that Iran was developing a bomb and they couldn't have it. It turns out that Iran has a couple of different natural resources that the West wants, and they can't get to it. So they need regime change. All right? They need to put in some puppets that's going to play to allow them to do what they need to do. Let's bring the receipts. So all that death was for greed. There we go. Salakia, I didn't even push play. And that's the copyright there being displayed on the screen.
It's the same story, different country. 1950s. Let's go. In the early 50s. 1950s. Iran elected a leader. At the time, Britain and America controlled their oil and their resources. They elected a new leader who nationalized the resources.
Nationalize the resources means
that
the nation controls it now?
Correct. So what a lot of countries that have a lot of resources do in a lot of situations is, let's say there are resources to the country. Right. They will use those resources to fund stuff for the country.
Makes sense.
But what we do is we privatize everything. Capitalism, privatize everything. So we go in a place with resources and we take those resources for corporate interests and give them pennies and say that we're helping them. A new leader came in and said, no, I'm not having this no more. He nationalized it so the people would benefit off the resources. And America and Britain, being America and Britain, is not having that. A regime change there. So for 20 years, it was an imperialistic puppet in Iran. And in the late 1970s is when they overthrew the puppet, and we've been beefing with Iran ever since. It's the same story, different country every time. It's just the same.
This is really one big ass game of Monopoly.
It's the same story, different country.
They took out Syria, Yemen, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan.
Damn.
Iran is the last power left in the region. And it's crazy because Gaddafi, when he was alive, he actually gave up his nukes. They wanted to give up his nukes. He gave up his nukes. They didn't want him to step down. But they took him out in the most demeaning and demoralizing way. And then you have Hillary Clinton in an interview laughing about it.
Based upon fraud. All right? They did it based upon a lie.
About him dying.
I gotta do my history because I don't really know. The only thing I know about Muammar Gaddafi was a Cat Williams his stand-ups.
He was in charge of Libya. The literacy rate jumped literally like 60%. School was free. Housing was a right. There was no homeless. They had no debt. No debt. If you wanted to be a farmer, it gave you land, gave you seeds. If you wanted to go to college and Libya did not have the program that you wanted, it would pay for you to go overseas.
That's fine.
In order to study. They had the highest GDP in all of Africa. He wanted to bring an irrigation system to make free water to Libya. He wanted to extend that to the rest of Africa. He called it the 8th wonder of the world. Wow. Free water to all of Africa.
That's crazy.
You know what NATO did? NATO bombed it.
Isn't that why they see something about Hillary Clinton always wanted to privatize water or something like that?
They want to privatize everything.
Shout out to Bill Burr.
Everything. Corporate interest. Capitalism. They want to privatize every dot. If they can
Free water.
if they can charge,
bottle this shit
if
up
they
at
can
Walmart,
charge you for the
bugging out.
air you breathe,
Yeah, that's a
they would
fact.
charge you. This was all off the resources of Libya, because when you have the resources, you can do stuff like this. And not only that, he wanted to bring a national currency to Africa, backed off the resources.
It was a gold-based currency on top of that. They could not have that, all right, because then other people would have followed suit, other nations, and basically this was clearly off just racism, white superiority of the West, the imperialism. That's what it really comes down to. That's what this guy isn't saying.
Couldn't have that. So he wanted the irrigation system and a centralized currency. So he gave up his nukes. He was going to leave himself for power. They didn't want that. They wanted him gone.
Now, had he kept his nukes, they probably wouldn't have attacked him like that. So, this whole give up your guns as well. Every time people disarm themselves, that government moves on those people shortly thereafter. Check your history. So I'm going to play this last one. All right. And with the seeds that this guy planted, and with this information, you're about to find out the real reason. And this is a TikTok video, and this looks like this woman is from Ireland. So I'm gonna play her video and listen to the information that she gives.
Here's what the US media is not telling you about Iran. In March 2025, Iran publicly confirmed that it had found 7,000 tons of high-purity antimony in one of its central regions. Antimony is a critical mineral, especially if you like bombs. It's used in military-grade alloys, semiconductors, armor-piercing rounds, and in plasma and hypersonic tech. It is also vital for solid-state batteries and quantum computing. Global supply chains of antimony are dominated by China, and China has been making moves to restrict export of these key minerals. High-level trade negotiations between the US and China took place in London in June. China's been explicit during those talks. They refused easing restrictions on any exports that were connected to the US defense industry. Specifically, defense contracting. They don't agree with private war. And they told the US unequivocally, these mineral exports are off the table. You are not allowed to use our minerals in your weapons.
Damn.
The US envoys left London empty-handed, and Beijing tightened controls the next day. The Western media frames those talks as progress on climate cooperation? No. The key issue was minerals, and China held...
Let's pause it for a second. That's some heavy information. So literally, the power structure of the West is fucked without this, because they're behind. Russia, is 40 years ahead of them in their missile technology. Because in the 80s and 90s, where America was getting super wealthy and partying, Russia was suffering, building up their missile technology. And now the technology that is used for weapons that they desperately need, they don't even have access to it. And that's what Iran is sitting on. And that's what they really, really want. But if you can make the world believe that they're a threat and that they have they're trying to make nuclear bombs, and it justifies, they are cold fucking busted. All right. Esau is a piece of shit liar and a murderer. And he will hurt and kill people and destroy whole lands and everything just to get what he wants, and trying to desperately stay in power. Your time is up, pale boy.
The line. The US is running out of mineral leverage. If China won't sell to the West and Iran is closely aligned with BRICS, the US doesn't have very many options left. They can keep trying to dominate new sources geopolitically, or they can try to extract domestically, or they could turn the machine off. Antimony is a gatekeeper resource. It is critical for future tech and war. Iran has something that the US desperately wants, but cannot openly negotiate for. Iran and China's control of antimony creates a mineral axis outside of Western control. The public reason cited for bombing Iran this weekend is to stop them from going nuclear. The truth is, the West is running out of sources. Iran holds a critical mineral that cannot be easily sanctioned or replaced. BRICS is already discussing critical mineral cooperation. This includes resource for tech swaps, so the cobalt that the Congo has.
And now with everything going on, the entire global South and NATO are leaning toward BRICS and being with BRICS. America is fucked. So when it says that the nation shall hate the whore and they shall all shoot fire upon her, that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed.
And the antimony that Iran has, they will make a deal between the two of them on the best way to price and share and sell those resources, while Uncle Sam is told to step back. Multiple Western intelligence assessments confirm that there is zero evidence of any attempt at developing a nuclear weapon by Iran. It's actually just not something that's of interest to them.
Exactly.
Because they're not suicidal. Iran's leadership has invited further inspection. The nuclear excuse is a smokescreen. The strikes were preemptive not because Iran might build a bomb, but because it has something the West cannot control. They are trying to disrupt Iran's emergence as a strategic supplier on the global market. Minerals like antimony are not valuable because they're building hospitals or repairing infrastructure, or they're just valuable because they make better missiles, more advanced surveillance technology. The problem is not that the West doesn't have enough of these things. It's that it needs to justify the perpetual military spending. There is a revolving door between defense contractors and the Department of Defense. To these guys, every resource is a strategic justification to bomb. The West does not have a supply problem. It has a values problem. We don't need any more antimony. We need to kill the machine that turns all minerals into products of war. Here's what the U.S.
Wow. So basically, and all those control mechanisms for the defense and the war machine is all controlled by small hats. They're the ones that make all the money off of that. So it turns out that this antimony and this other mineral, this is what they really want. And the bombs that don't exist, just like there were never any weapons of mass destruction. And look at all the countries that got taken out as a result of that. All right. And they said Uncle Sam could take a step back. And what's that scripture somebody can put on the comment board when it says, and he put by Esau? Go sit your ass in the corner. This meeting is not for you. You're not invited. Esau wasn't on the list, right? The bouncer didn't let you in. All right, let's you found out, man. You're a damn liar. Let me get it. Keeps coming out because you keep getting called lies. This is Deuteronomy 33 and 29. Happy out 28. Actually, I'm going to start at 28. It says, Israel then shall dwell in safety alone. Well, they're not safety or they're alone. These aren't the people of the Lord. That's why that's happening to them. The fountain of Jacob shall be upon the land of corn and wine, and also the heavens shall drop down dew. When the Israelites go home, there will be peace on earth. There will be no more wars. Matter of fact, all weapons of war will be rounded up and destroyed, burned, and melted down into tools for working. All right. Verse 29. Happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by Yahweh, the shield of thy help, who is the sword of thy excellency, and thy enemies shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. Call halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Rakah HaKodash. Hope this was edifying and uplifting. Kwam Yasserallah. Abba Babal. Shalom.